Hello and welcome to WellFit Chicago, brought to you by Momentum Fitness and Health. Let us help you find yours. My name is Jason Venckus. I am a board certified holistic health coach as well as a certified personal trainer who specializes in fitness, nutrition, as well as corrective exercise and sports performance. You have questions about fitness, health, wellness, nutrition, and we have the answers. Every week we scour the internet looking for the most commonly asked questions about fitness and health so that we can answer them right here for you. So today we're going to cover a pretty important topic, and that's the topic of soy and wheat. There is so much information out there, and these are two very common food items in the U.S., and probably the two most misunderstood foods, and that is soy and wheat. So we hear soy is good for us, we hear soy is bad for us. What about wheat? What about gluten? Will it affect me? Stay here and I'm going to explain it all. And we're going to start with soy. Is it good? Is it bad? How about if I have breast cancer? Will it give me breast cancer? Will it make me grow breasts? If I'm a guy, thyroid issues. Well, the top 5 common misconceptions about soy and wheat are that all soy products are made from GMO soy. We'll talk about that, of course. Eating soy products increases breast cancer risk. Soy causes feminization in men, including growing breasts. Soy phytoestrogens inhibit thyroid function, and that soy-based formulas can disrupt growth and reproductive development. So, tackling number 1 is that all soy products are made from GMO soy. And it's actually going to solve a lot of the problems here. So yes, 93%, it's actually probably even higher now, of soy produced in the US is genetically modified. It is modified to resist massive doses of the herbicide glyphosate, better known as the active ingredient in Roundup, stuff we use at home. And it's also bred with Bt toxin, which is a pesticide that eats the insect from the inside out, so to speak. And this is actually from the University of California, San Diego, and they describe exactly what happens with this Bt toxin. So the insect eats these Bt crystals in spores. They are bred into the soy. And it's something you can wash off when you're at home. It's bred into it. So the insect eats the Bt crystals. The toxin binds to specific receptors in the gut, and then the insects stop eating. The crystals then cause the gut wall to break down, allowing spores and normal gut bacteria to enter the body. The insect dies as spores and gut bacteria proliferate inside the body. This basically makes the insect burst from the inside out. Now, between the glyphosate, which is sprayed on, you can wash some of that off, and the Bt toxin, which you cannot wash off, sounds safe to eat, right? Maybe not. But most of the GM soy that is out there, that is grown, especially here in Illinois, is actually used to feed livestock. Or it's made into oil, so you should always be watching for soybean oil, or soy meal. Now, soy meal is often a filler in many processed foods. Other names that you might find, because it doesn't say soy meal on it, but other things that you might find on a label that mean GMO soy meal is lecithin, guar, xanthan with a Z, xanthan with an X, tocopherol, MSG, yeast extract, natural and artificial flavors, and about 60 other items. So, this GMO meal, soy meal, is hidden in a lot of our processed foods. That's the bad soy, right? The fillers that are put into a lot of our foods, the stuff that's fed to a lot of the livestock, and then does it get into the meat? That's a whole debate right there. But there is good soy, non-GMO organic soy, which is often used in tofu, tempeh, miso, and of course fresh edamame. But this is starting to change, so you have to read the packages and you have to know what you're looking for, and look for that non-GMO and that organic symbols. Just because something is grown organically doesn't mean it's non-GMO. Okay? So according to studies conducted by a group of experts, non-GMO soy, the benefits are that they can help relieve hot flashes and other menopausal symptoms. Soy from food has been shown to reduce the risk of breast cancer and endometrial cancer. Reduce the risk. Studies have shown, scientific studies have shown that they reduce the risk. Whole soy products, not GMO processed soy products, reduce the risk of breast cancer as well as endometrial cancer. Think about this for a second. The average woman living in East Asia eats about 10 times the quantity of soy foods as the average woman in the United States. 10 times. That's because tofu, tempeh, natto, miso, that's more part of their diet as opposed to we get more of the processed fillers in our diet. Yet Asian women have lower rates of hormone receptor positive breast cancer than women in the United States. So soy also appears to help women under 65 with cognitive function as well. So some good benefits there, right? Just about the whole breast cancer thing, and cognitive function as well. And it can help with menopausal symptoms. Well, what about feminization in breasts? Well, I have been eating soy for 7 years now. Tempeh tofu 1 or 2 times a week, and I have no breasts. I have fairly normal pecs for someone that lifts, but the story has been told and retold about the gentleman that grew breasts from drinking 1 liter of soy milk a day. Now the name of that person and the country of origin changes every time you hear it. Phytoestrogens do not work the same way human estrogens do. Okay? And in human research studies, soy products have been shown to lower serum cholesterol levels. So there is some proof that soy can actually lower cholesterol levels, in part due to the rich content of soluble fiber. I mean, that's kind of just basic information right there. A lot of your fruits and vegetables lower your cholesterol because of their fiber, and it's no different with whole, organic, non-GMO soy products. And then the isoflavones also play a role in bone formation. So kind of going on to the thyroid function in soy, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine was asked, does soy interfere with thyroid function? And the answer is interesting. Certain foods, perhaps most notably soy, have been linked to the development of hypothyroid problems, but this is still controversial. Along with soy foods, other foods including cruciferous vegetables contain goitrogens, which are thyroid suppressants, and or progoitrogens, which are thyroid stimulants, which, though they probably do not adversely affect persons with optimal thyroid function, may affect those with thyroid conditions if they are frequently consumed. So will it lead to it? Probably not. But now lightly steaming these foods, for the most part, kills these thyroid suppressing substances. So if you're steaming these foods, you're going to get rid of the goitrogens that are in that food. So you have to be a little more careful with the raw ones, with the raw foods. So one or other dietary factors that may inhibit thyroid function include synthetic and genetically modified animal products or soy products. So going back to that good soy versus bad soy. Vitamin and mineral deficiencies. How is your iron? Vitamin A, B, zinc, and selenium. The most often problem with the thyroid is that we're low in iron. It can almost every time fix the problem. Excess intake of polyunsaturated fats. So your polyunsaturated fats, you're talking about your omega-6s that you're going to find in a lot of fried foods, a lot of processed foods, a lot of soybean oil. Again, going back to that soybean oil. So to put all that to rest. So is it possible that soy foods can disrupt thyroid? Yes, if you're eating a lot of it, but so can cruciferous vegetables, unless you do some light steaming and get those goitrogens out. So you got all that? Good soy versus bad soy. And it's really going to tell you the story of each of those 5 misconceptions. So a lot of information there. All right, time to talk about wheat. But where do we start? How about the beginning? Because wheat has been around for at least 12,000 years. It's been a part of the human diet dating back to 10,000 BC, so over 12,000 years. Wheat was grown in Egypt as well as parts of Asia that is now occupied by Russia. And it was created by crossbreeding 3 different kinds of grass. So wheat basically is grass. When you hear wheatgrass, don't get all, because wheat is grass. So sometime around 6700 BC, it was ground into flour using rocks. And then in 3000 BC, the first risen loaves were created when mixed with yeast. Now the theory here is that beer was used to mix bread instead of water. So beer has been around longer than water. And the Egyptians were the first to use bread oven. And that, again, it was around 3000 BC. So now fast forward to the 1900s. Inorganic fertilizers have boosted yield and quality, and crop protection is improved, so farmers are losing less of their yield, okay, to pest, disease, and weeds. Glyphosate was approved for use in the 1970s. Glyphosate is banned in a few countries and is restricted use in many, many, many others. So glyphosate is also one chemical contributing to the decline in the bee population in the U.S. Just one, there's a bunch, combination. It's more the insecticides, but glyphosate is not going to help any either. So why is this important? Why do we care about glyphosate? I eat organic wheat. I'm good. Well, glyphosate is used to kill wheat. Wheat must be killed before it is harvested. It's called crop desiccation. Even organically grown wheat is often still sprayed with weed killer or glyphosate before harvest. Now, it's not grown with it, but it's sprayed with it at the very end of its cycle to kill it so it can be harvested. So it does contain less residue, but it contains residue nonetheless. So it's important that we distinguish the difference here as we go on talking about wheat sensitivities and wheat allergies, because that's probably why you're here. Symptoms of a wheat allergy are sudden onset symptoms such as vomiting, asthma, nausea, coughing, hives, like very, very sudden. And the symptoms for wheat sensitivity are frequently delayed, usually maybe a few hours later, maybe even 2 or 3 days later. You get a bloated stomach, you might get a little gassy, diarrhea, and constipation. Also things like cold, flus, mouth ulcers, and thrush are also common symptoms of a sensitivity, not an allergy, to wheat. Now here's some interesting facts for you. The percentage of people with actual celiac, the full-blown allergy, is low. It is 1%. Now, the number or percentage of people that are wheat or gluten sensitive is still very small, at 6%. So 6 out of every 100 people probably have some kind of a wheat sensitivity. Now, there are many, many, many theories about what causes these sensitivities and allergies. From increased gluten content, basically the plant is now producing more gluten because we're over farming it, so it's producing more gluten to save itself, basically, to preserve itself. To the increased use of glyphosate, herbicide, on these wheats. Now, whole wheat berries as a whole, because wheat, when you think about it, it's actually just a little berry, it's a little grain, seem pretty safe to eat and have very, very few effects on people that have problems like celiac or sensitivities. But let's look at all the different flours, because after all, we love bread, and you can't not admit that you don't love bread. So, and bread requires flour. So what are your options here? The first thing, the thing that we've known forever is white flour. Now, just like white sugar, it is stripped of the germ and the fiber, and you're left with just the endosperm, and then it is bleached. It is bleached to be white. Sounds healthy, right? Now, white flour acts in your body just like white sugar. It actually may be even worse than white sugar. It spikes your energy and your blood sugar, and with no fiber, leaves you hungry again soon after. Wheat flour. I'm talking about just wheat flour, not whole wheat. Wheat flour. Same process, minus the bleaching. So you're still, if you're, oh, I get wheat bread. It's not really much better for you than your white flour bread. What about whole wheat flour? Okay, the process leaves the fiber in and it has a 4 times fiber content of white flour. Now on the GI scale, bread with white flour is 71, which is high. Most sugars are 65, 66, somewhere around there. And whole wheat flour is 51. So it's lower, but it's still very high. It's still a very high score on the GI scale. So it will keep you fuller a bit longer, but eventually, again, lead to that crash out. So what about sprouted wheat? That seems to be a big thing right now. Sprouting grains increases many of the grain's key nutrients, including B vitamins, vitamin C, folate, fiber, and essential amino acids often lacking in grains such as lysine. Sprouted grains may also be less allergenic to those who have grain protein sensitivities. And that is from the wholegraincouncil.org, straight from their website. Right? So a sprouted grain, you're going to see brands like Ezekiel bread that they claim that they have sprouted grains. You might even see wraps that say sprouted grains. So these grains are sprouted so they produce, or before they burn off most of their vitamins in the production of growing all the way up to a full stalk of wheat, they're going to retain most of their nutrients instead of burning that off. So that makes it much healthier for us. And one last thing that you may not have heard of. And I had heard of it before, and then I was watching the documentary Sustainable, and I got a little more information about Landrace einkorn wheat. So wheat once came in many varieties, but in order to control weeds and pests have been modified to just a few varieties. And they have to be planted over and over and over again. These modern wheats are bred to produce high yields, but only when given high doses of artificial fertility dependent on fossil fuels. So now we're talking about wheat in the environment as well. Now, heirloom wheats have a highly adaptive genetic database. These are these grandfather strands of wheat. And landrace wheat varieties, for example, are hardier and migrate across the globe. It's not something you find in the U.S. that much, but you're starting to find more of it. Now, one variety, turkey red winter wheat, can manifest over 40 iterations depending on environmental conditions. So think about that. It can produce 40 times. And that's the lexiconfood.com is where I'm getting that information from. So there was a test that was done. So and they talk about it in this movie, Sustainable. You got to go check it out. Sustainable is the name of the movie. It's a documentary. It's very, very local here in Chicago, talking about farmers and how sustainable things are. If you are vegan, it's not necessarily going to be up your alley. Some of it will be, but some of it won't. Anyway, so there was this test done, and what they did is they took this bread made from einkorn wheat, and they fermented it. It was naturally fermented with sourdough, lactobacilli, and fungal proteases. So they took this bread, they fermented, took the wheat, the einkorn wheat, they fermented it, they turned it into bread. And it's really cool in the movie. You can see it's bubbling, and it's in these tubs, and it's bubbling, and you can see that things are active in there, and things are alive in there. So they then baked that into bread after fermenting it for a period of time. And then they served this bread to people with wheat sensitivities. And not a single one of them, not a single one, had any kind of reaction. Now they did say sensitivity, they didn't necessarily say allergy, but you can probably make a correlation that there would at least be less allergy to this fermented einkorn wheat bread. So you're not going to find this stuff commercially made or sold in stores. It's a specialty item, and here in Chicago you can visit the bakery inside of Public and Quality Meats, where Chef Greg Wade makes this bread. So they make the bread out of there as well. And you can get this fermented einkorn like sourdough bread. So that is a lot to digest. Get it? See what I did there? Digest? Okay. Enough of the dad jokes. So is soy bad for you? Yes and no. Is wheat bad for you? Yes and no. There are no universal answers when it comes to nutrition. What may be right for you may not be right for some, but know that many commercially made foods contain tons of chemicals that might be harmful to your health. Even if they're listed as being safe, they're never tested in combination with each other. Never. Arsenic is tested. Okay, arsenic is fine in small levels. Okay, great. But what if I combine small levels of arsenic with small levels of ammonia and small levels of insecticide and small levels of glyphosate? What happens? And they call that synergistic toxicity. And maybe, just maybe, that and the over-processing of these items, maybe that is what's causing our sensitivities to these foods. So this is good information to have. So thank you for sticking with me for all this. A long one today, a little over 20 minutes, but it's all important information. And perhaps it will shed some light on myths as well as any health issues that you might have been experiencing and worried about these two particular food items. And speaking of myths, join me next week as I address a few common myths that you may have seen on the internet, such as a glass of wine is just as good for you as an hour at the gym, and that ice cream makes you smarter. So join me next Friday at 11 a.m. Central, or you can find this on YouTube or on our Facebook page at any time. And until then, I hope that you can find your momentum. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video from Momentum Fitness and Health. Whether it was one of our WellFit Chicago video blogs, one of our educational videos, or one of our workouts, we hope that it helps you find your momentum. If you want to stay up to date and get all the videos as they come out, make sure you click that subscribe button right there underneath the screen. You know, the one that's right there.